everybody, I'm Nick, and welcome to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Debug Mode. So, the first thing we gotta do to actually play around with Debug is actually getting into the level select for the sound test here. It takes forever because you have to hit up, up, down, down, up, 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 up on this transition screen here, and the lag eats your inputs. And one thing I also noticed is that I noticed that Sonic is actually knocking away the Sega letters. It's actually something I never noticed in all this time I played Sonic 3. Anyway, entering that specific sound test code will actually enable debug mode for you. So let's go ahead and look around and see what we can do with that. Also, the icons in the corner there are from Sonic 2, if you've probably noticed by this point. But let's just go ahead and show off some of the basic debug mode stuff that has been typical for classic Sonic games up to this point. So, you just you can place objects wherever you please. You can make as many rings as you want. Here are super monitors that make you instantly go supersonic. You know, just the usual fun stuff. And because you can place just about any object that the game lets you here amongst a selection for the zone. So you can just place springs wherever you want. You can place as many enemies as you want, including inflicting massive slowdown. And of course, obviously, having to deal with object limitations and then, you know, watch them go! So yeah, even one thing I noticed is that kind of having all these enemies placed here and just Sonic eventually goes bouncy, bouncy. Yeah, I just kind of let that happen for a little while. And yeah, there's even like screwed up enemy palettes as well. Ah, fun times. Debug mode is just always chaotic fun when you do that. Oh, and also by pressing the B and C buttons, you can also make the game play frame by frame while the game is paused. And you press the A button while paused to go back to the level select. And upon going into different levels, you can sometimes get some screwy effects to happen. But also, we can just go ahead and, you know, debug mode our way past Knuckles and, you know, see some things we weren't originally supposed to see. You know, like the background that it currently has Knuckles' color palette or something. That's a little weird. And of course, using debug mode, you can glitch yourself past things you weren't supposed to, you know, get past. And you can actually get yourself into the Knuckles Act 2 of certain zones, which is kind of funny because the objects are all here. Why are they all here when Knuckles isn't able to be played in Sonic 3 alone? It's kinda wacky. So yeah. Whee! I made a tail zip! But yeah, sometimes entering levels can have unintended consequences when going to other zones. So, you see Angel Island has been selected, but now we're in Carnival Night Act 1. Yeah, we kind of get dropped where would the normal starting place supposed to be for Angel Island. And yes, that also means you could trigger unintentional bottomless pits to kind of get yourself caught in. It also means that any music transitions will actually change the music over to whatever zone that you had loaded up there. So Angel Island Act 1 is now currently playing while I'm in the middle of Act 2. And yes, that does mean, like, yeah, bottomless pits are going to remain. You know what? How about we just don't push that button? Let's see what happens. I don't know why the balloons are just glitched out, but they are, and I think it's funny. So anyway, hello Barrel of Doom, my old friend. Trying to go into debug mode on the barrel causes a soft lock. Luckily, it's possible to alleviate that by pressing the reset button. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Luckily, when the game only soft locks like that, you do not have to input the code again. So you can just get right back to where you left off with your shenanigans. So how about we go into some other stuff, shall we? Like the bonus stage. You know, things are working perfectly as intended. Nothing totally going to be screwed up happening whatsoever on the screen. I don't know why this happens, but it's really funny. The menu is perfectly functional, but it just kind of shifts everything around, and I really don't know why that's the case. Okay, here's some screwed up parts. Why is there black tiles there? But luckily, when you actually go to start the level, the game does fix itself. This is not how it was intended. I do also believe that you need to hold a button while you're going into a level. I think you have to press A or something in order to actually enable debug mode when you're going into the game. You only have to do it once, though, because once you exit a level... another soft lock here with some glitchy graphics. Not gonna be the last of that. And yes, we can even phase into Knuckles' Act 2 of Launch Base Act 2. And the objects are all here! Like, what the hell? It's kind of really funny, honestly. So I'm just gonna show off a little tidbit of, yeah, most of the objects are all working as intended. Of course, there's Knuckles-specific stuff that you can't really do, but that's what debug mode is for. And if you're ever running out of air, because this place didn't initially have intended bubbles for you, just going into debug mode fixes that problem. Yes, we can even debug mode past that, too. Because why not? So let's just go through the rest of Knuckles' Act 2, and, you know, things are perfectly fine. Things will be perfectly fine. You know, this is where the boss is supposed to be, but, you know, since we're not Knuckles, there's no boss. And if we jump off, we go to the drink. And now the game is correcting itself to be like, hey, this isn't the right tile set. Load the right tile set. And then as we just zoom off over to the end over here, it's just like, well, this is a whole lot of nothing. There's supposed to be a whole lot of nothing. You aren't supposed to be there. And the funniest part about all this is the part of the Death Egg where you're actually supposed to fight Sonic 3's final boss starts off underwater. So anywho, I'm just, you know, they only had to build the exact amount of graphics they needed to show off what they want to do, what they intended to show off. And yup, the graphics for the thrusters are just there. And scrolling into Knuckles will just make him spawn. So I'm just going to place this here and be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? There's no problems here at all, right? But yeah, anywho, this egg pawn thing is actually here for you to get in, glitchy graphics and all. And it still triggers the cutscene as is intended, so Knuckles will do his thing, and he will still get knocked over as the big background tile decides to go up. And yes, Eggman's graphics are glitched from here on in. The big arm, however, is not, except for Eggman himself, which is the really funny part. And then before the Death Egg goes away, you can actually get a chance to pause the game and go back to the main, to the level select. So you don't have to deal with this crap. But let's see what happens when we load in here. Oops. Instantly dead. Instantly dead. Instantly dead. That's not quite how things were supposed to go, huh? Yeah. But luckily, you could do... or rather, unluckily, The screen is still locked here, so you can go up, but you can't... Actually, it is just straight up locked not horizontally, vertically. So you can do your best to try and navigate around things, but there's really only so much you can do. Especially when you're running into death planes. And unfortunately, the mini-boss doesn't actually load in. And once you're here, you're trapped with only this bottomless pit to get you out of this situation. And yes, let's enjoy some really glitchy graphics loading the frog tiles from earlier. The flowers aren't even correct either. And hey, look, launch base music. Ah. Oh yeah, they're all messed up too. But for the most part, yeah, that's totally fine. But how about we go ahead and proceed to the end of Act... Oh yeah. When you try to go past Act 2, no music loads. It's really funny. But as I was trying to say, there's one thing I wanted to try and show off, but I'm not really great at it because sometimes you can get rejected out of the tube and sent backwards. And I don't know why I went through that monitor that way. But I did, but getting tube rejected will ultimately throw you back over here. And yeah, the tiles are all wrong because they're loading the airship that tries to bombard Sonic and Tails. So, at least I think it's really funny that that this is all loaded this way. You could even go all the way back to the beginning of the act like this, and even the correct background tiles for, you know, that cutscene are there. And doing all that screws up Eggman's robot. So let's go ahead and glitch up here because we can. But then let's go off and, you know, let's go snowboarding or something. This totally isn't going to be going wrong or something. Tails, what happened to you? And yes, I could actually try going up the mountain like this. To a point, anyway, where I just instantly just VoIP into death. But yeah, things aren't really looking too hot with Ice Cap here. So let's try and play the zone as originally intended. That is an actual game crash. There isn't... If you reset from here, you have to do the code all over again. Oh, how fun. Yeah. After trying to get that all set back up, let's actually go into Ice Cap originally as intended. Or rather, you know, let's glitch things as unintended and really screw up the snowboarding. Unfortunately, the snowboard will just want to make you constantly go forward until you hit any kind of, like, wall or object. So, let's try for a second not to get hit by a wall. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And it just makes me hit an object. So, there we go. And per usual, all of the objects in the Knuckles part are all still here. And I don't know why those graphics are there, but why not? And also, here's some vertical level wrapping. It's kind of a neat thing for how Marble Garden and Ice Cap have to vertically wrap their levels like that in order to make their gimmicks work as intended. But yes, you can go past the Knuckles boss and technically continue on to Act 2 with the Act 1 music. And unlike Angel Island Act 2, because Sonic and Knuckles have the same boss, Eggman's still gonna load properly. But I just wanted to show a little bit of the path here, and also, I was always curious, what's under here? I know it was essentially a whole lot of nothing, but hey! You can get outside graphics underwater, how neat. And I don't think the flickies were supposed to look like that. You can even go into the versus courses, and I don't think that's how that was supposed to look. Honestly, I had no idea that these levels actually vertically wrapped like this. This is actually really funny. It takes a moment, but eventually the game gets snapped into place proper, and I don't think Sonic's graphics loaded properly. Oh no. Oh no! And yes, you can, for whatever reason, there is an object for spikes in here, which is weird. You can also load as many goalposts as you want. So yeah, you could go fault there if you wanted to. And yes, it also extends to other levels too. And you can even really screw up the gumball stage like this. Look at Tails go! Whee! Whoop! And there he goes! Never stopping. Until he pops back up and then eventually back down again. Or he just, you know, decides to go away. Also, trying to fall into the gap there is just, you know, it will just resume itself forever and ever. And now Sonic is trapped in this hell. Ah, gotta love it. And now everything's all shifted again. Boy, how fun. How about we do a little, Marble Garden Act 2 shenaniganry? Yup, the grasshoppers are, perfectly working as intended. Nothing wrong here. Oh yeah, I also forget to mention that I think it's pressing B and C at the same time. Lets you kind of go through all of Sonic's frames of animation. At least you're completely invincible while doing so. But it's just like, well, that's one way to get Sonic to absolutely freak out. And yes, you can't actually go through that wall. You know, not unless you're debugging. But most all the objects are still here, actually working as intended. With one exception, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But of course you have to use Knuckles to actually get over there. Oh yeah, that'll also just crush you for whatever reason. That's weird. But yeah, the part with the ground shifting upward actually still works. And trying to glitch through here to see what's on the opposite side is, gonna be your death if you're not careful. But yeah, now I'm really messing things up. But yeah, once you get past where, you know, where objects are supposed to end, you get to level chunks that don't actually have any objects loaded in for you to play with outside of the level geometry. So that's fun. And eventually screwing around eventually decides to drop me in where the boss is, which is actually hilarious. And then the camera locks in. And then unfortunately with that object right there, Tails gets caught there and you're unable to do the boss fight. Because no matter what, Eggman is gonna miss you. And yes, we cause a soft lock again. Woohoo! Time to hit the reset button again! And I actually decided to play through a little bit of this just to be like, how much more badly can we ruin things? Like dying? And then going back to see what other kinds of glitchy graphics we can inflict upon the Angel Island Act 1 cutscene. Once again, it all fixes itself. Not a problem. Totally not just skipping past Knuckles to see how extra screwed up things can get. You know, nothing wrong here at all. We're actually gonna load in the mini-boss cutscene here. Just like this. Nothing wrong is happening with the fire at all. That was actually one of the funnier, like, unintended glitchy graphics that I could think of. Well, that's no good. But yeah, they're all messed up too. Let's just glitch past every... Oh, ow. And apparently I could cause this to happen. So yeah, we could start the boss without an Eggman there. We can beat this mini-boss exactly as intended. And by activating Debug, you can actually unfreeze yourself while the score tally's ringing up, and then the next act loads up. Except, since we did things wrong, we still have the the launch base Act 1 tiles all loaded in. Yep, this is totally acting as intended. Oops. But even to a point where, hey look, we loop back around to the beginning. Where nothing is loaded and the background tiles are completely screwed up. We can actually even get to the point where we actually get to the very top right of the map. So, once we get over here... Yeah, and up past here... There is no more level to go! We're at the very top right corner of the map! And then that just crushes us. And then Act 1 loads up again entirely as intended. Also, the special stages are completely acting as normal, immediately booting us out. It's actually possible to hit a red sphere to actually end it before it boots you to another special stage. And then, you know, the beginning of Angel Island works as intended. So, after loading around some more stuff, I'm just like, what other kind of glitchiness can we do here? Well, here's another way we can try to corrupt the graphics. Once again, everything fixes itself as intended. But after all of that, let's see what happened to the save file. Oh. Why is everything Tails? How did that work? Let's actually load up Sonic 3 and Knuckles to see what actually happened here. My actual save files are actually working as intended. So yeah, thanks very much for watching this fun little distraction I thought to do here. You know, I was like, you know what? I want to do something less serious. So that's what this ended up being. So thanks y'all for watching. I've been Nick, and I will see you guys next time.